welcome to Elevate and Innovate with Kathrina. And today we have celebrated chef Ming Tsai. Yay! One of my favorites. We grew up with you. You and Martin Yan are our heroes, so thank you so much. But we're here to talk about entrepreneurship, right? We want to highlight underrepresented entrepreneurs, and I want more people to grace the cover of Forbes that look like you and I. So tell me about Mings Bings.
First of all, great to see you. Thank you for having me. So Mings Bing is a company that's now 4 years old, and really 4.5. And it was created for my wife, actually. She had a health scare 5 years ago. And the two things we decided, we're in Boston, thank God, with amazing hospitals. And so Dana-Farber is where we did and took care, just completely wiped her cancer out, which was awesome. And she's cancer-free now, so knock on wood. But the decision we also made collectively was she was going to go vegan. And reason being, all the research, and she's already was a pescatarian, basically like me. I mean, I will eat meat. If I'm at a restaurant and a chef sends me a short rib, I'm going to eat it. Right? I'm not going to be that guy. But in general, at home, when I travel, I eat vegetarian to dinner, and it's not a diet. It's just I prefer it. Right? I mean, Chinese food, Asian food, we just eat more plant-based. But from our research we knew about, and I know enough to get in trouble, inflammation is one of the biggest culprits of disease becoming worse. Inflammation causes almost every disease we have. And if you can reduce inflammation in your body, you can then reduce the disease, or if you have a disease, it can then not multiply. There's also something that I think is paramount, is just reduce or eliminate sugar. Hard to completely reduce it, but if you only intake your sugar from natural fruit and maybe the occasional tequila or glass of wine, right? Because that's sugar. Right. But don't eat, and I love pizza, but don't eat pizza every day, right? And don't eat 5 bagels a day. By reducing, that's also gluten. So gluten's inflammatory, sugar's not great for you, but all protein, meat, pork, chicken, shrimp, salmon, every protein is also inflammatory. So that was why we decided she should go vegan to help her recover from her sickness. And honestly, I went to the greatest grocery stores, the Whole Foods and Wegmans and everything, Stop and Shop in the Boston area. And no offense to the current veggie patties that are there, but they're all emulsified hot.
Oh, I've seen them.
Right? Gardein, Boca, Dr. Prager's. And they're just not delicious. They're dry because they're emulsifying soybeans or beans or chickpeas, whatever. And then you still need less than tomato, mayonnaise, and a bun to eat them. And it really became my mission to develop a product that is delicious first, because I am a chef. Delicious first, but also super easy to prepare, and something that it will be good for you because it will be plant-based and actually vegan.
And word on the street is they're delicious.
They are delicious. I don't have any with me. I have a coupon though for you.
Okay, good.
The culinary breakthrough for me was I reversed the paradigm. I didn't want to puree something and then cook it. I actually wanted to put the emulsification on the outside, so I created this brown rice wrapper. And then by creating that lumpia wrapper, which actually we use a machine that makes traditional lumpias, and you're Filipinos, so you know what I'm talking about. It's brown rice primarily, so it's a gluten-free wrapper, and then we just fill it with deliciousness, right? I'm an Iron Chef, so I take the best plant-based protein that was available, and real vegetables and real spices and all of that, and create delicious plant-based.
It's a dream come true.
So we're, again, we launched the company February. COVID started March, so that's when we started the company. And knock on wood, it's been going great. We've, all the way
3,000 stores, I think.
Almost 6,000. No, almost 6,000 stores. And but what was very interesting, and this is something for everyone that wants to be an entrepreneur, you have to always be flexible.
Yes.
You have to always realize that maybe your vision was X, but the market wants X plus 1 or X minus 1. And you can't be like, no way, I'm only doing X. Well, the market's going to win, right? You can't, some people can recreate the market, I guess, but in general, in the CPG, consumer products good, frozen aisle, there's parameters you have to follow, right? I can't charge $30 a Bing, right? You got to be in a price point that makes sense. And you have to have flavors that people understand. So all of that, but what happened was, Q4 last year and Q1 this year, the plant-based industry actually tanked, right? The big guys, Impossible Burger and Beyond Meat, that they've had a lot of challenges, and we saw on the industry whole a 35% decrease in people buying plant-based products. Ironically for us, there was a company called Tattoo Chef that actually went out of business that did over 100 million. So we actually picked up some slots from them. So we actually grew in the number of doors because we took some more slots from people that went out of business. Having said that, the velocity, how many we sell per week, was still not enough to sustain a company. And I was always going to do more iterations of fillings, Chinese stir fries, eventually go seafood and meat. And then one of my favorite retailers in the country, Costco, reached out. And they're like, look, we love your format. We love the gluten-free. Gluten-free is not a trend. Gluten-free is here to stay, right? Just reduces inflammation. And gluten's not great for you, right? And, but will I refuse a pot sticker, scallion bacon, or shell? Well, no, I will not, right? It's all moderation, right? It's all moderation. You know, in Chinese, the word diet doesn't even exist, right? It's just
We just
we eat, and when we eat in China and in the Philippines, all over Asia, it's usually 80% plant-based by choice, right? Meat is used to flavor, but it's not a center plate like a T-bone steak or a ribeye. So anyway, so we decided, Costco's like, we love all that, the gluten-free, we love that. It's 12 minutes in an air fryer, but we are done. This is Costco saying we're done with plant-based. Can you do us a meat-based version?
great.
Right? And so I said, absolutely. So we went to Livermore. We presented them with a cheeseburger, a Southwest taco, a ham and cheese, and a buffalo chicken. They actually loved them all. And one thing I did, because it's so important, this is another, I think, critical point in entrepreneurship, is you have to have a mission. You have to have a purpose. And that mission, you have to stick with it, right? Even though the market changes, I can't be like, okay, I'm going to do just plant-based. Now I'm going to do really bad food for you, right? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't work with the brand that I've built. I've always said, and I will to my grave, you are what you eat. So if you eat double animal styles 7 times a week, you're going to be a double animal. And I love double animal style, for the record. It's not, I love it, but that's a once or twice a month, right? At best, because I don't live out west here. But my point is, our mission was always, we are a better for you company, right? So not being gluten is better for you. And after I presented the meat-based things, after they enjoyed them all, because people get skewed by mind bias, I then said, by the way, these are BFY, better for you. That cheeseburger Bing has 20% cauliflower rice mixed in. That ham and cheese Bing has 20% mashed potatoes without any sodium mixed in. So everything, they didn't notice for one. They still taste delicious. 85% of this country eat meat, 15% don't. And of the 15% that don't, the vegetarians, probably half don't even like the taste of meat. So they're not even trying to get a fake plant-based, right? They just don't like meat. And of course, the vegans won't even touch it. But because 85% of the country like meat, they'll feel a little more guilt-free by eating a Bing because it's still their cheeseburger. They have the cheddar cheese and the 80-20.
Oh, you're making me salivate, yeah.
Absolutely smoke. And then hiding the cauliflower rice, like I think moms and dads do with their kids when they're really small. And for the record, a tip, if you want your kids to eat vegetables, just start the wok or saute pan with garlic or garlic and ginger or shallot or garlic, something. Get the oil fragrant. They'll eat broccoli, they'll eat cauliflower, they'll eat kale, they'll eat anything as long as it tastes good.
Right.
If you give them a steamed head of broccoli that's soft like they did in prep school, no one likes broccoli then. Yeah, that's just a side. But my point.
Broccoli.
Yeah, I love broccoli. I mean, I love all veg. My kids ate veg more than anything. They're like, oh my God, broccoli. They're all excited because it just tasted good.
Right.
So this whole BFY idea is in the DNA of our company, right? So we're so excited that we did a whole launch of the meat base. Literally last weekend, I was here at the Livermore Costco, and I can proudly say we sold out. And that's
I missed out on it.
So now I have the great problem, which is hopefully, and we're talking to Costco next week, then look at doing more of the San Francisco region. There's 60 total stores, and if we can do that, then we're.
Don't forget Hawaii, because that's where I need the Hawaii
My
Costco.
parents live in Honolulu.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're in Kahalanui. So
Wonderful.
Target had our Mings Bings
Okay.
in Hawaii, and it was the highest selling Target in the country. Was the Ala Moana Target.
I love that. That's my target, actually.
Yeah.
So so we covered a lot of topics in entrepreneurship. So this is the entrepreneur mindset. We talked about pivoting. We talked about reading the market. What I love is that you're pretty famous already, but I saw that you still go out on the street and you were branding yourself out there.
Oh, you have to, because Mings Bings. I am Ming. So I can't send Tom, Jack, and Henry and Tammy and Sammy to go be Ming. And as my wife says, I made my own bed, right? And it's a bed I like, but you have to work it. You can't just get to a level and then the downfall of an entrepreneur is like, okay, I'm in success now. I don't have to represent my brand anymore. No, that's complete BS. There's an awesome entrepreneur I'm so proud he's one of my great friends, and actually, full disclosure, one of my, actually, he's my top investor for Mings Bing. Is a guy named Michael Melman. And Michael Melman, he runs Discovery Resorts, which are the most beautiful resorts all around the country. Now Portugal, Yellowstone Club, where my restaurant at, he runs that as well. But he famously started Casa Amigos with George Clooney and Randy Gerber, and first of all, it's delicious tequila, so that helps, right? You can't represent and do something if you don't think it's delicious. You start up, right? But he had a really good tequila. He was very smart. They got George Clooney, who's incredibly well known, involved, and they had some really smart advertising campaigns and whatnot. And he just
easy on the eyes.
Yeah, totally. But they also got Casamigos in the TV show Entourage. And part of the plot was Turtle starting a tequila company called Casamigos, and 2 weeks later, after the show airs, it's in the liquor store. I mean, just genius marketing. And taking a page out of Melman's book, which I try to do, he always had a Casamigos shirt or a hat or a sweatshirt 24/7. Even after he sold the company for $1 billion, he still wore Casamigos.
I love that. Stick to your branding.
Stick to it, because if you start getting tired of your own brand, then everyone else will too.
Right. I also read that you like to do well by doing good. So, and to me, that's the heart of entrepreneurship, is you're not just solving a problem for yourself, but it's about your community. So
100%. And, I have 2 sons. Proudest things I've ever had are my 2 kids. And literally since they could barely walk, I drilled into their heads, listen, there's no free ride here. I didn't get a free ride, and you have it even better than I did. I mean, I had parents that loved me. I had a house, right? I had food every day. I never had all the world problems that, we're so lucky, right? I mean, just living in America, we're already that lucky, right? And I need to remind some of my friends that, dude, especially you're a white male in America. You're having so much better than everyone else already. So don't claim to me that you're having it tough. So I drilled into my kids how, I don't care what it is, but you have to figure out how you're going to serve. You have to be able to give back. You have to leave the world a better place. My son kind of got me, and he said, okay, I'm going to be a Marine. I'm like, no, too much service.
too much.
And now he's a 2nd lieutenant proudly in the Marines. So
thank him for his service.
Oh my God, no, thank him. And we're so proud. I mean, especially I can speak for my wife. We're very proud and somewhat scared because it's the Marines. But you got to let your kids be kids, right? And then this is what he wanted to do. So he ultimately served. And Henry is acting at USC. He hasn't quite served yet, but David is taking it up for him. But the point is, with Mings Bings, part of the DNA, part of my recruiting is, our motto: eat good, feel good, do good. And we actually just rebranded it, so now it's just feel good, do good, because it's got to be delicious on my chef. The feel good is you feel good eating plant-based. You feel good that it's a little bit better for the environment. And you literally just feel better when you do eat plant-based, right? And the do good is some proceeds of all sales of Mings Bing benefit both Dana-Farber, the hospital that's in the slide, and an awesome charity called Family Reach. And I'll talk all day long till the cows come home about Family Reach. For the only national charity that financially helps families dealing with cancer. If you get a cancer diagnosis and you have 2 parents and 2 kids, let's say, the kid gets cancer, what usually happens? Usually the mom stops working because someone has to drive the 2, 3, 4-year-old to treatment. You can't throw them in an Uber. They're immunocompromised anyway. So now your income, let's say it was $100K each, is now down to 100 from 200. But your car payments, your mortgage, your this, maybe
still there. Mm-hmm.
That doesn't disappear. So it's nothing about healthcare. I mean, thank God we have Obamacare. This is about all the expenses that occur when someone in the family has cancer. Obviously, if a parent has cancer, your income's half because that parent's not working. And then think about it exponentially. If you're a single mom or single dad and your kid gets cancer, well, you can't work because you got to take your kid, and no one has. In general, in this country, cancer insurance. No one has an extra $100,000 hanging out in their bank account in case one of my kids get cancer. That's not the way America is. Man, half of America is almost paycheck to paycheck. So cancer diagnosis, you could be bankrupt and homeless within months. And once you're homeless in this country, it's so hard to get out of it. And the brutal news is, it should be, the poorer you are, the least chance you have to survive. That's a broken system. But obviously, me and family meets, we can't solve the system, although we are going to lobby to have a Family Act, which is you can't be evicted if you have a cancer diagnosis. But what we've done with Family Reach, and this is through food, because I'm a chef, I created an event called Cooking Live. And I bring the best chefs in the country. I've done them in San Francisco, Chicago, tons in Boston, New York. I probably have raised over $11 million over 13 years.
Thank you.
And actually, it's the second best thing I've done next to my two sons. And I'm so proud that I know these families. Michaela is my superhero, who at the time I met him, he was 2, single mom Raquel, fantastic mom, fantastic kid, cancer card. They went through it. She had some savings. They got through the cancer, but then a year later, cancer came back.
Oh.
And now she had no savings. They lived in a homeless shelter for 2 years as he was getting chemo radiation. Just think about that. I mean, I've never lived in a homeless shelter. I've cooked in homeless shelters. And you're desperate if you're in a homeless shelter, right? At least you're not on the street, but you're close. But imagine having a kid with cancer getting chemo and radiation. And then the kicker, a year into that, the doctor, the oncologist said, Michaela needs a bone marrow transplant to live. But unfortunately, because of the sanitary conditions of the homeless shelter, we can't administer, it won't stick. You can't tell a mom your son's going to die when you have a cure. That's when Family Reach stepped in and said, BS, here's your apartment back for a year. We got your lodging. You take care of your kid. Michaela's 18 years old now, and Cooking Live, he gives me the thing.
So good.
And I know I helped save that kid's life. And there's been hundreds of families like that I've touched. And again, dollars mean nothing compared to this. This is true success. Cars and this, it's great, right? That car's nicer than this car. It doesn't change the world. It doesn't change you. But helping a family that was in that desperate situation, that can change you.
Right, right. So, oops, sorry. So we talked about you coming up with a solution to a real problem, because that's something that I teach my students, social entrepreneurship. What is happening socially in the community, in your families, in your homes? And they usually come up with something amazing for their immigrant moms or dads to help them move forward. And that's exactly what you do. And then you pay it forward, so you can do well by doing it. It's a perfect example.
Right.
So I love to share my wins, sure, but there were very hard times, through my entrepreneurial journey. There was one day I had 19 cents in the bank, and I said, you know what? That's it. I'm giving up.
What was your entrepreneurship? What was the?
So I had a marketing agency. I still have it. We sold it, but it was really tough that day. I said, you know what? That's it.
19 cents?
19 cents. That was it. And then the next day, I receive a huge check from a former client saying, you have no idea how much you changed my life. Please, thank you so much.
Wow.
So that's when I said, I'm back, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, 19 cents is not very long.
No.
Our comparative stories, when I left Santa Cafe, I was executive chef. And my wife and I, to our names, we had like $1,100, right? And I had a dream, but I didn't have my own restaurant yet. I had a dream. And bluntly, my wife basically, is her idea, it's true, so that you need to become chef owner because you keep getting fired. And it's true. Got fired.
Entrepreneurs are not good employees.
Well, you know what? There's a huge truth to that because, and I can honestly say the two people that fired me were just one out of line and two morons, but that's just, there's nothing I did wrong. One was like, thank you for getting us, the top ratings that got in New Mexico, bringing James Beer dinner here. I did change, we're the #1 rated restaurant in Santa Fe. I did all of that. And after 2 years, like, you know what, you're too expensive, but thank you, right? So that was brutal. And another one, same thing, was actually in Palo Alto. I did a restaurant. Yeah, you're young, you'll get another job. It was ridiculous. So my wife said, we can't keep moving around. So we got to find a place. You need to be chef owner. And we had $1,100. So we went towards back to Boston, where I went to Andover. I had a lot of chef friends in Boston, and that's how eventually, after about a year of lots of just literally negotiation, right? I mean, the art of negotiation was actually the best course I took at the hotel school. I got my master's at Cornell, and funny enough, that was actually in the business school. But how you have a BATNA, right? The best alternative to non-agreement is critical when negotiating your lease, negotiating, what's the state for a liquor license, whatever it is. You never try to sell a car and say, I'm only going to do it for 10,000 or that's it. You never will sell it. You want to have a number that will not have a non-agreement. The whole idea of negotiation, you want the agreement, right? You want peace, or you want to sell it, or you want to buy it. So everyone, once you realize that, you have to have your BATNA to make the negotiation. And I'll tell you, really just talk about being caught between a rock and a hard place. So at one point, I had the space for Blue Ginger, and I negotiated with the landlord.
Award winning.
Yeah, so it was my first, right? We opened in '98, but I literally like 3 months before, or 4 months before, I had the lease. I hadn't been signed yet because the landlord said, "Listen, we can't have you sign the lease until you actually have a liquor license, right?" The liquor license, ABCC, says, "Look, this is great, but we can't give you the liquor license till you have your bank loan secured." That's fine, but the bank says we can't give you a bank loan until you have your lease signed.
Oh,
So
man.
all three had to happen in one day, and I'm like, "How is this supposed to happen?" So honestly, I had to lie. This is back during fax machines. So at 8 a.m., I faxed one to the bank, says I got my lease, and I faxed the landlord, says I got my license, I faxed the ABCs, I got my loan, and it all happened. I did it in 5 minutes, so I wasn't really lying. I knew it was all coming, but I had to do that. Otherwise, I would have been stuck there with nothing. So sometimes you have to jump for the branch because you'll never get hired if you don't jump. So that was a risk. But what was the downside? The downside, if I didn't do it, I would not have a restaurant. And by taking the risk, then I got a restaurant. Then honestly, the rest was history. And but it didn't come out. It didn't come with a little bit of luck and perseverance. You can't give up. It's like in China, mayo. Everyone's going to say no, 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 no. And then if you just put your head down and walk away, you're never going to get anything. No doesn't mean no. No means that they are saying no, but they've not seen the big picture of what I need this to become a yes. There's always a yes and a no, but you got to figure out what are they really trying? Why are they really saying no? Because I mean, there are a-holes out there that just want to say no, right? But in general, everyone that has a mind will listen to at least a business proposition, right? I'm like, oh, wait, I can make money too? Okay, well, maybe. And then once you got them on maybe, that's basically yes.
Right. Okay, last question to wrap it up. All entrepreneurs are concerned about funding, right? What advice do you have for a startup that's wanting to do food, and it doesn't even have to be a restaurant, but just around food? Is it hard to find investors in food?
Yes. It's hard to find, especially this day and age, it's hard to find investors, period. So I'll give you two scenarios. Critical if you do a restaurant. Critical, because cash flow is by far the biggest reason restaurants go belly up. Most restaurants that open don't make it past a year. Only 1 out of 10 make it 5 years. Those are horrible odds, right? But everyone still wants to do it, right? Because there's the ego, there's the mistake, this is fun. I mean, for me, it was like, I want to be able to serve my friends and family for free. That's why I want to make people happy through food. That's why I'm still a chef. So what I did specifically for Blue Ginger, and I'm very proud of this. I mean, this is a long time ago, right? I mean, I had this in '98. I got a $250,000 SBA loan, the one that had to require the liquor.
Still around?
Yeah, SBA. Oh, SBA is fantastic. If it's your first business, the government wants you to succeed, and they'll give you this Small Business Administration loan. But usually, if you can show them that you raised $250,000, which I did with friends and family, I was lucky, right? My parents, right? All small amounts. I mean, large amounts, but small in the big picture, were like $25,000 installments from friends and family. By showing it could raise $250,000, the bank was much more apt to give you a $250,000 loan because obviously you had something. But the way I budgeted it is I saved enough cash that if my restaurant, when I opened, Did zero covers for a month. I could still cover rent, insurance, and salaries. And the reason you have to do that is no one does 200 dinners their first day or first week, maybe not even their first one in one night, right? Everyone thinks they're going to do that. And the other critical thing with Blue Ginger is I was there every day of the build out with the general contractor with a design build way of doing it. Design build is the architecture and the general contractors speak the same language. So if you know pieces of wood come, a sheetrock or 8x6, don't do a 9-foot piece because now you have a piece and then cut a little piece. That's expensive. Don't do round banquettes. They're 4x a square banquette. Things like that. I mean, I was there in the prep room and we drew out that the prep sinks here, but they started breaking through the walls. Are like, chef, the piping's here. You'll save 8 man hours if you put the sink here. Sink's going there, right? Those decisions made us open on time, day that they said they'd be done, and on budget, which is so rare for a restaurant. Usually restaurants are 20, 30, 400% over and never on time. And the reason that's critical is I burned no cash because I opened on time. And I had that extra cash, thousands of dollars, to not put the pressure on me that I had to do 200 dinners the first night, because no one's going to do that. I don't care who you are. It just doesn't happen that way. So by taking that financial pressure off, we did start with like 60 dinners, and then we did like 70, and then we did a little bit less. My dad's like, that's not a good trend. So I'm like, Dad, it's a third day. It's not a trend yet. Just give us a break. And then when Saturday hit, we had gangbusters, and we were fine. On a smaller level, if you have the best chocolate chip cookie or the best lemon bar or the best soda idea, you have to start small. Even as chefs, if you have a restaurant, people say, how do you brand and get out there? You have to actually start small, which is that farmer's market. You guys stand in that tent for 8 hours, giving samples of the most delicious ginger lemon bar you've ever made, and you have to have the confidence that once you take a bite, because it costs you money to do that, they're going to buy a box of 6, right? Because your product has to be that good. And if your product's not that good, then your company's not going to work. So first of all, it has to be a product that not just your friends and family say it's good, because they're always going to say it's good, strangers. And once you actually have a formula that you like and everyone else likes, you have to pound the pavement. There's no substitute. You can't sit at home and just say, oh, the online orders are going to come in. No, they're not. You have to get it into people's mouths, and then they say, this is the best lemon bar I've ever had in my life. And then, of course, I always do. You give them a discount. You give them a free card or something. But the deal is, if you like it, post it out there for me. Throw it on your Instagram. Tag Ming Tsai. Tag Mings Bing. And that virality that can be created is, first of all, nowadays very inexpensive compared to like advertising or trying to do a commercial, right? That's crazy expensive. All these social media platforms are basically free. It just takes time to do it. But if you're going to take your time to do it well, right? I mean, I can't do my social media by myself. I do my own Instagram, I post my stuff, but like on TikTok, I have my social media person because they got to film you, right? And but we have a cadence to it, right? We don't just do a couple and then forget about it. Once you start, you can't stop. If you're trying to brand yourself and you start with 2 followers and then you double to 4 and then you double to 8, you can't take a hiatus for a month because you went on vacation. As a matter of fact, vacations are great for social, right? Here I am in Canada. Here I am in Florida. Look, right? But you have to have a cadence that makes sense to keep it going. Consistency is probably one of the most important things.
Everything you said. You talked about cash flow. You
Yep.
talked about market research. That's really important. What was the
Quality. You said it has your product has to be so good, and ideally, we say this in the TV world too. What's the hook, right? So people propose TV shows to me all the time. Like, yeah, but what's the hook? There's already a pizza show. There's already a vegan show. People have done grilling and chilling, right? Why is this show so compelling that people are going to watch it? Why is your lemon bar, chocolate muffin, whatever, so good? Is it delicious? And by the way, gluten-free and, cholesterol-free? Great. Is it delicious and something else? Great. But if it's not delicious to start, you have to start over. No one wants to buy or invest in anything mediocre. It just doesn't work. It doesn't matter how beautiful it looks. The packaging, spend that. And you can have great T-shirts and all that. None of that matters if the product you're putting in your mouth doesn't taste good. So, and then the last part I make, because it's going a little long, is
once you figure out how to make one, you need to figure out how to make 12, and then 120, and then 1200, and then 20,000. And the quality has to stay the same. So that's a real challenge. I'm in it right now, right? I just moved factories from Boston to Denver. We have new machines. We're putting in new equipment. And it's a bear, right? It's not easy. But again, I go to Denver at least once every other week, right? I mean, I can't, yeah, it's a factory. It's not that glamorous. But I can't just phone in, hey, how's it going, guys? Because if you're not there, you're like, why is that being put there, right? It's just being present is, for an entrepreneur, for a new business, if it's your business, you have to be it. You can't pass it off to your PR person, your marketing person, even your CEO. You need them to support you, but when you're asked to be X, Y, and Z or some location, you have to be there. That's simple.
You heard it from the expert. Thank you so much, Chef.
Yeah, you're quite welcome.
Really excited for the future. So
As am I.
and we're gonna buy a bunch of Mings Bings and send it to the staff and we'll have a Mings Bings party.
We like to say, go get binged. So go get binged.
I like that.
Yes. And just in case you're asking, it's a really genius question. Mingsbings.com. Mingsbings.com, mingstsai.com, showbutTV.com.org.
Is it .com or .org?
Dot something. But, and that's the other thing, Michael Mummon, don't be embarrassed to plug yourself all day long. No one else is going to plug you as much. Period.
Period. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.